Shora Beshemte, I am Callum Traveler, and welcome back to Blunder for Korman for Beginners. Today we're going to be doing a little something that is, how should I put it? We're going to be doing a lot of different stuff. And the first and foremost and most important thing of all, well, we're gonna start with, light groups. Yeah. So, as you can see, I have this big, huge mass of lights around here, and, let's just say that Blender is, and rather, the Uru engine of Plasma is not gonna be happy with this massive amount of lights. So, I'm just gonna start selecting all of these, lamps here, or rather, select all but one. There we go. And that should leave everything fairly even now. So if I were to just jump in there right now, this would, not be very pleasant to visit, because I just screwed up by I've just messed up the visuals by deleting all of the stuff. Anyway, so, light groups. This is something that is very, very, very important to, doing a day-night cycle, among other animations and other things, and honestly, it's just a mind saver for making sure your lights are only affecting certain things, because for the time being, you'll notice I've had my, spheres, I've had my lights set to spheres to constrain the distance that their light, can travel in, and that kind of messes with things, by a lot. So first and foremost, I'm going to be setting this down to 2. I'm going to be disengaging the sphere lock. Okay. I'm going to go to this, big fancy crystal tree here. Now, I could just leave this shadeless, but I want it to be having shading on it. In order to get things to shade properly, we're going to go to this tab, Object, and we're going to scroll down to Groups, and then we're going to add to Group, and we're going to create a new group by hitting the plus button, and it'll be Pod 13 Group. And light group. Make sure it says light group, just so for your own sanity keeping purposes. So, how are we going to go about doing this? Well, if I select the light object, and then I select the object, now they'll be paired together, like so. And then, let's see if I remember this. Control-Shift-G, and it'll say add selected to group. And that, yep, see, Control-Shift, or Shift-Control-Z. Anyway, adds it to a group. And now, if I go to my texture, I can go to my light group, and I can hit Pod 13 light group. And would you look at that, it changed the lighting of the entire room so suddenly. Because guess what? By doing it like this, my Age's sun is not affecting this pod anymore. Yep. That's right. I have now decoupled this pod from the sun in my Age. And now if I bring this in here, you'll see that it's all kind of wobbly. Here's the major thing to note about light groups. A material can only have 6 lights on it at a time. I say only, but that's the recommended maximum. You can, if you're being very careful, add more lights to a group. You have to be kind of... It's playing with fire, basically. You're risking potentially overloading the scene. Which is part of why I dropped the light down to 20 in the energy, because when Nabri, I had all my lights up at like 15 and 20, and that was causing all kinds of... Anyway, point is, I'm now I'm changing this to a sun, So let me drag this. I'm gonna rotate this so it's, pointing straight down. Or as straight down as I can. There we go. Alright, we got this in the middle here. Now I'm gonna duplicate this. Put it down below. Y, and I'm gonna tilt it upwards. And now we have two lights, one pointing up, one pointing down. You might be able to see where this is going next. Because I'm gonna take my light. I'm gonna duplicate it again. Bring it over here. I'm gonna rotate Y, and I'm gonna point it sideways. Woohoo. And then I'm gonna duplicate it one last time. Bring it over here. And RZ. And, voila. My pod is now lit in 4 directions by 4 sun lamps that are not affecting anything but this pod. And everything that is textured with my pod texture is, being affected by this. And that includes this bit here, this floor bit, which, if you recall, I went to a whole lot of trouble to get rid of a lot of spare data bloat, basically. And yeah, I'm gonna have to undo that now. So I'm gonna separate these out. Yep. And then, even though I don't have to do this, I am. Because I've had issues with my lighting things carrying over with my animations. You're not supposed to have to need to do this, but you're going to have to do the same thing for the materials, or the textures for these materials. So now if I go here to light group pod 13, and then I go to light group pod 13. Yay! Now you'll notice that that is lit by my purple lights. And not the, everything else. So yeah, I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna make sure all of my textures in my pod here are, separated out. And I'm gonna make sure that everything is under the same light group. Okay, so I realized in the middle of updating my light sources and stuff that I needed to update a linking book panel because I used a template that was not the right panel for that particular book. So I'm going to show you real quick how linking panels are supposed to be done. Basically what you got here is a whole bunch of okay, so linking panels basically in Uru need to be in a specific format. That is to say, they need to be in a specific window that is 512 by 256. They need to be 407 by 167. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to take my linking panel. I'm going to drop it in here. I'm going to go Layer, Scale. I'm going to unchain it. And I'm just going to type that in. 407 by 167. And scale. And it's going to be slightly off center, but that's all right. I'm going to move it up to fit. Perfect. File save. File export. And it's going to follow the pattern of link panel Abri 2. And just like that, I have my linking panel. Go to my pod concept revisit. I'm going to drop this into this folder. And then I'm going to go open the image. I'm going to go to X link panel. And I'm looking for Nabreed 2. And look at that. I now have a linking panel in this book. And speaking of this book, I do not want it to have the Denny panels, because why would this have the Denny panels on it? No, 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 no. No. I'm going to take my panel texture here, make sure that I have it selected for this, and I'm just gonna drag it up to the Bevan book texture, and drag it up to the Bevan book texture. And that's not quite centered right, so let me fix that. There we go. There we go. Anyway, like groups. Yeah, so I am now, finished up with the pod here. Everything should be all synced up. Now, there's one extra... Now, this pod is going to be unchanging in its lighting. That is to say, all of the lighting in here should technically remain, yeah. You know what, I'm just realizing I'm not going to be able to cut it with just 4 lights because I have my opposite sides of the pod not being lit up. So I gotta do what I just did, and I'm going to bring this up to 6 lights. Duplicate. And duplicate. And there we go. This pod should now be fully lit. Though, again, make sure that I get all my stuff set to the right light group, which it was not, and it is still not, because I missed some things. You gotta be very careful with this, making sure you get everything. Now, again, I could have conceivably, done all of my conversion of a texture to a light group at once and then separated those off. And that honestly probably would have been the most expedient way to do this. Yeah, that actually honestly probably would have been the very most expedient way to do this. And also, some little trick here. I don't like the white boxes. How do I get rid of the white boxes? Simple there. Set it to wire, and then I'm going to set it to bounds just as a bonus. Actually, no, I'm just going to leave it as a wire. And then, yeah, now I have a little wire box for my collision. Yay, now I can see the thing. So, yeah. Shall we go see how this looks in game? And here we are. In pod 13. And everything is lit so beautifully. This is what a light group does for you. This is what a light group does for you. Oh, look at all of this. Yeah. Now this is glowy crystal texturing. That it is. Yeah. Okay, so that's a light group. That is a basic light group. And, we're going to end up doing more of the light grouping on other things. But we'll get to that. We will get to that. The basic thing to note here, I still need to go over and retexture everything, but now that I got all my lighting working right, well, we're doing better. We're doing much better. There's a book. That does not go to the place that it says it goes to. But it's a book. And I needed templates and stuff working. Anyway, yeah, so this pod is now properly lit. This is the same basic trick that Cyan did for the other pods with the day-night cycle. They have a light group for the interior of the pod that changes depending on whether it's on and off, I believe. And then the sun is part of its own light group that adds on to it. That affects the outside, but it doesn't actually really affect the inside all that much, if you've ever noticed. Like, the inside of the pod is always kind of the same color, day or night, no matter when the power's off, and then when the power's on, those are the same kind of states. Those are light groups, basically. Yeah, so light groups. Let's keep doing light groups. Or actually, no, let's not do. I've shown you how to do light groups. We're gonna move on now to something different. And what is that something different? Well, let's give this age an actual proper sky for starters. I mean, as you can see, we're dealing with that is not the sky. That is not a sky texture. That is just a clear color. That is void. That is pure blue nothingness. And also, you'll notice no footsteps. Yeah, we'll get to footsteps. We will get to footsteps. And I've got a lot planned for today, including swim regions and maybe animated water textures. I'm gonna see how much I can squeeze into today, honestly. I don't know how much I'm gonna be able to fit in today's episode, but I got a lot to do and cover, and I may end up splitting this over a couple episodes.